people who are coming down with COVID have now started taking hydroxychloroquine, then we should have seen a significant decrease in the percentage of people that are dying from COVID.
Now, what's interesting about that is twofold. Number one, just to build up on this, is that, like you said, if it's too late, it actually kind of has almost a null effect. Like it might blunt the whole overall deal there and increase the shedding or whatever. But like, if it's too late kind of thing, which is weird also because if it's, like the first 7 days and then even into kind of the 14, you're supposed to kind of stay your ass at home, do your own thing. So there's a weird little bit of kind of a no man's land there to cross. And then the other thing is, aren't they typically stacking it with like a Z-Pack or something?
They're putting azithromycin with it, exactly. So the azithromycin is to help with quite a few different things. Now, I'm very concerned about the azithromycin to go along with it because azithromycin is classic for causing something we call QT prolongation, which is an EKG thing that happens. When you're putting these two agents together, you start increasing that risk a lot higher.
Right.
Azithromycin, the question is azithromycin acting just as an antibiotic, or is it acting in a way that's kind of off-label with it's doing something different with your immune system? Why not amoxicillin?
Right.
And that's where the question actually falls into place is, I don't think that it's just related to the antibacterial effects of the azithromycin, because if so, why not something like amoxicillin? They've done some studies thus far, and they've actually shown that if one of them is to be better, it is azithromycin and not amoxicillin, not ceftriaxone, which is another antibiotic, which leads me to start thinking is if you're to try to interpret this early data that azithromycin itself must be doing something to the immune system or the inflammatory system that's being synergistic with Plaquenil. I actually am not running towards using azithromycin in anybody. This is a virus.
Exactly. That was going to be my follow-up question.
This is a virus, and they haven't shown a ton of people that are developing secondary infections with bacteria. That's where your ear infections come from, by the way. Every time you get otitis media, the reason why we say you might not need antibiotics is because it always starts as a virus. You block your eustachian tube, fluid builds up in the eustachian tube behind your ear, a little bit of bacteria that's there becomes an infection. You start off with a cold, and 5 days later, like I haven't gotten any better, here's your Z-Pack. The reason you didn't start with it was because it wasn't a bacteria at first. It was a virus.
Right.
Bacterials do not work on viruses.
Right. Right. The virus creates the symptoms which create the bacteria. Absolutely. It's not a transmutation of the virus into a bacteria in that regard.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
It's just it makes an environment where the little bit of bacteria that we all have in our body, I guess actually we have a lot of bacteria in our body, but
thankfully.
Exactly. It's safely in our body. It then moves from a stage of being just living living with your body synergistically to forming into an infection. That's where I feel about with the azithromycin. It seems like in that case is they just threw the azithromycin on board along with it. But I am concerned if we're going to start to use it with people that were not likely to have severe symptoms and we're using it empirically, which just means we have it at our house, we have it from our doctor, to say, hey, look, I don't know if you're going to have a lot of symptoms or not. Let's give this to you. I start worrying about those 1 out of 100 people that are going to have a significant cardiac effect. If we magnify that across the millions of people that live in the United States, we start saying that 10,000 people might die from taking Plaquenil and azithromycin, or at least ending up with serious cardiac side effects. And that starts we're talking about numbers in the range of 50,000 to 100,000 people that are going to die. Do we want to try and drop that number down a little bit to have 10,000 people die from the treatment? It's not a perfect situation for us right now. The evidence is still coming out. There's a big study that came out in Detroit, which has not been made public knowledge. I was able to find a document that was submitted to the New England Journal of Medicine. The New England Journal of Medicine did not feel it met the quality of a study that could be promoted. But in that study, they actually showed a significant amount of harm from hydroxychloroquine. So the only study that's been done in any reasonable way in the United States did not only not show benefit, but it showed some harm. Now, was it because they were giving it to people too late? I don't know. But hydroxychloroquine, Plaquenil is not changing the universe. We know it because we know people are taking it out there. If people who are coming down with COVID have now started taking hydroxychloroquine, then we should have seen a significant decrease in the percentage of people that are dying from COVID. And we still know that it's in that 3% range. It seems fairly random still, but 3 out of 100 people who get coronavirus will die from it. If Plaquenil or hydroxychloroquine was changing that, we should start to see that part of the number go down to, say, 2%. And that's not been the case.
Dr. JP, I'm blasted with insights in no particular order of importance. What you did is you gave me a mental model to follow in the event that I do become symptomatic, to be able to have sort of that thing. It's like, yeah, it's going to come or it might not. Whatever the case, it's that breathing deal. And if the inflammation gets too crazy, like the peanut dude, right? Thank God I don't have that, right? Then it's like, boom, get in, right? And at that point, even on the in or even before or any point in between, the testing game is like mediocre at best, let alone its availability, which is, again, is well documented. But if in fact you do feel like your COVID group, as you shared, was infected, and you need to know that for yourself, they can come up, they can check you out up at the Carlsbad office, right? You guys got the testing. Great thing to know, especially as that becomes more ubiquitous. I got to imagine that almost everybody at some point is going to be tested.
I agree.
You know, right. So we got that. We talked about the immunity certificate. That's a little bit more, that's a little bit different. That's a whole different world. It's a little dystopian, but I can appreciate also the utilitarian element of that. And then as we move forward, we've got the plasma deal. It could potentially create a force field from you. And then if you got it, it could blunt or truncate the extent of the symptoms for yourself. That's kind of cool. That's another area of your specialty. And you guys are, like you mentioned, kind of, there was 2 camps, like the scary camp, the snake oil camp, and then the legit camp. And you guys are part of the legit camp on the plasma game, right?
We're legit on that end. Plasmapheresis wise, though, that's going to be something that's going to be probably done in a hospital.
Okay, and fair.
My warning for you is that if you start hearing somebody saying, "Hey, come in, I'm going to give you that shield," definitely talk to myself, Jesse, somebody about whether or not that's legitimate or not, because I definitely think people are going to try and start to snake oil people a little bit with that. So please that's something to be careful of more than anything else.
As with anything in this opportunity game, it's going to fletch up from this. So, and then the hydroxychloroquine's like great context and container and silo you kind of put around that of, you could potentially use it. Like I don't know anybody personally, but I was hearing people that were trying to take it like prophylactically.
Right.
And so that's interesting all by itself. Right. And I don't know really where to kind of live inside of that game.
I do have a little tiny bit for that. And you summarized everything perfectly. I want people to know when they need to be tested, know when they don't. We have hundreds of tests available. We're getting our results back in 24 hours.
Nice.
So we can definitely get that information out to people. But I'm not here to say, please come in. I have my master's in public health and epidemiology. I want people to stay safe. I'm proud of San Diego that we're doing well. One of my friends said to me is, I feel like we're in kindergarten and it's just one of the kids out there is punishing us and we're missing recess because of it. I want to go back outside for recess too. San Diego's doing great. Keep up the good work. The Plaquenil, the study that's been probably helpful to me for the question of people that are just popping it prophylactically are the people who have rheumatoid arthritis who are already on Plaquenil. Their rheumatologists have gotten together and collected data and have been able to demonstrate that those people do not appear to be any more resistant to developing COVID than those that are not taking it. So while it's not a study, it is a suggestion that just taking Plaquenil probably won't stop you from converting into a COVID person. So I would not do it personally. I don't think the literature is there. I'll roll my dice on that one to say is prophylactically not recommended. High risk exposure, maybe, and probably if you have access to it and it's not limited, it's a good option.
So inside that window, you got the symptoms. It's not too far out. There's that little chunk inside your graph. And if they came to like urgent care and they sat down with a doctor, that could be something that gets prescribed?
Yes. Certainly right now is we have enough of a limitation that I feel that as Americans, we are harming those with lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. And so I would, as a as an ethicist, I would say is I have to put that into consideration. If we had just this whole stockpile of hydroxychloroquine and somebody came in and wanted to take it, and we discussed the risks and potential benefits, and they still wanted it, yes, I think that would be possible. But I think most practitioners are not prescribing it. When we are prescribing it, we are limited by federal statutes right now. And so we are allowed to, but please be careful with just running for it unless there's other risk factors of coming along with it. That medication can be dangerous. Again, 1 out of 100 people will have a bad outcome just from taking it on a whim.
Dr. JP, Sarah, thank you so much for your time, man. I can't wait to send this out to every single person I know. Man, you left me a hell of a lot better than you found me. So
Thanks so much,
appreciate
buddy.
you, brother.
Feel free to send any questions through Jesse to me, and I'm a nerd. I love to answer questions. So stay in contact, everyone. Stay safe.
Thanks, JP.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, man.